Pick up your phone and take a photo right now. If you're using an iPhone, a Google Pixel, or a Samsung Galaxy, there's a better than even chance that the chip that captured that image was designed and manufactured in Kumamoto, Japan, by Sony.
Not the phone. The chip inside it. Sony's consumer electronics reputation, the televisions, the headphones, the PlayStation, has faded over the decades as Samsung, Apple, and Chinese manufacturers crowded in. But in one category, Sony has done something extraordinary. It has built a quiet monopoly at the most critical layer of global smartphone photography. As of Sony controls roughly 80% of the worldwide market for smartphone image sensors, according to Tech Insights. Samsung, the closest competitor, holds around 30%. Every other company on Earth splits the remaining 30%.
This is the story of how Sony built an invisible empire, and why, for the first time in 15 years, that empire faces a real challenge.
An image sensor is the digital retina of a camera. Light enters through the lens, hits the sensor, and the sensor converts photons into electrical signals that become your photo. The sensor is not the lens. It's not the software that sharpens edges or adjusts exposure. It's the raw physics layer, the difference between a camera that sees the world clearly and one that sees noise.
For most of the smartphone era, image sensor technology was good enough but not remarkable. Then in Nissan Luke and Nissan C, smartphone cameras started becoming the primary camera for most of the world's population, and good enough was no longer acceptable.
The core technical problem was low light performance. Traditional CMOS sensors, the dominant type in cameras for decades, had a structural flaw. The photodiodes that capture light were buried under layers of metal wiring. Think of it like trying to collect rainwater while someone has placed a grill of pipes above your collection bowl. The wiring blocked some of the incoming light before it could be captured. In daylight, this barely mattered. In a dim restaurant or at dusk, it meant grainy, noisy photographs.
Sony's engineers in Kumamoto figured out how to flip the sensor upside down. In June, Sony announced what it called XMOR-RS, the world's first mass-produced backside-illuminated or BSI CMOS sensor. By inverting the sensor architecture, Sony moved the photodiodes to the back, eliminating the wiring obstruction. Light could now reach the collection layer directly without passing through the metal grid. The result was dramatically better low-light performance. Sony's early data suggested a twofold improvement in sensitivity.
This was not a software trick. It was not a marketing claim. It was a genuine architectural breakthrough in how sensors are physically built.
Sony shipped its first consumer BSI sensors in Nissan Q10. The question was who would buy them at scale. The answer, as it turned out, was everyone.
But getting into Apple was not immediate. When Apple released the iPhone in May 4th, the image sensor came from OmniVision, a California-based fabless semiconductor company. OmniVision had the relationship, the manufacturing capacity, and the existing Apple supply chain integration.
Then OmniVision stumbled. The company encountered yield problems, a semiconductor term for the percentage of chips that come off a production line functioning correctly. When yield drops, costs rise and supply becomes unreliable. Apple, which demands extraordinary supplier discipline, went looking for alternatives.
What followed was one of the most durable supplier relationships in technology history. Sony did not just keep the Apple account,
It expanded it. Each generation of iPhone pushed sensor resolution, dynamic range, and low light performance further, and Sony's engineers kept pace. By the time Apple released the iPhone Sure lineup in Malsor, Sony was supplying sensors across multiple rear camera modules in a single phone. The iPhone had become a multi-sensor device, wide, wide telephoto, and Sony was winning design slots in all of them.
There is a data point that captures the absurdity of Sony's position. Sony also supplies image sensors to Samsung for the Samsung Galaxy S series. The world's two largest smartphone makers are both buying their camera eyes from the same Japanese company. For Sony's semiconductor division, this is not ironic, it is optimal. Volume is what keeps precision fabs efficient, and Sony was happy to sell to its arch-rival as long as the margins held.
By mid-2012, Sony was shipping over 1.8 billion sensor units annually. Its imaging and sensing solutions segment generated approximately 1.2 billion in revenue in fiscal year 10, roughly a quarter of Sony Group's total turnover. Operating income for the division came in at around 1.6 billion, up 70% year-on-year.
Sony had not just won a supply contract, it had become the invisible infrastructure of global smartphone photography. The architecture that enables Sony's dominance evolved significantly after the backside breakthrough. A second critical invention came with what Sony calls stacked sensor design, integrating the signal processing circuitry directly into the sensor die rather than on a separate chip. In a conventional setup, the sensor captures light and sends raw data to a separate processor for conversion. In a stacked design, that processing happens within the sensor itself, simultaneously with light capture.
The practical result is faster readout speeds, lower power consumption, and the ability to cram more computational power into a smaller physical space, which matters enormously when you're designing a phone that is 8 millimeters thick.
Think of it like the difference between a camera with a dark room attached to it versus a camera that develops the photo inside the lens. The physics and chemistry collapse into one step.
Competitors understood what Sony had done. Samsung, OmniVision, and others invested heavily to replicate the BSI and stacking architecture. But semiconductor manufacturing is not a business where good ideas translate quickly into production. Building a facility capable of making stacked sensors at smartphone scale requires years of capital investment, process engineering, and what the industry calls yield learning, the accumulated knowledge of running thousands of production lots to understand where defects emerge and how to eliminate them.
Sony had a 5 to 7 year head start. By the time competitors reached similar capability, Sony had moved ahead again. That is the compounding advantage of precision manufacturing. You do not just hold a lead, you extend it.
This is where Japan becomes essential to the story. Sony's sensor operations are centered in Kumamoto Prefecture, in the southwestern corner of Kyushu Island. Kumamoto is not a technology capital. It does not have the concentrated startup culture of Tokyo or the industrial density of the Nagoya region. What Kumamoto has is a workforce trained for decades in the particular discipline of precision electronics manufacturing, what Japanese manufacturers call monozukuri, meaning the art of making things.
Monozukuri is sometimes romanticized, but it describes something real: the prioritization of process integrity over output speed. In a monozukuri culture, a production line stops when a defect is found, not when the shift ends. Engineers spend years on a single process step, not because they cannot advance, but because mastery of that step is the point. The goal is not to make sensors. The goal is to eliminate every possible way a sensor can fail to be perfect.
This matters in semiconductor manufacturing because the difference between a good sensor and a great one is measured in nanometers, billionths of a meter. The ability to place circuitry at that precision, and to do it 1 billion times a year with consistent yield, requires a manufacturing culture that treats deviation as failure rather than acceptable variance.
Sony is not unique in operating this way in Japan. Tokyo Electron, Shinetsu Chemical, and Murata Manufacturing all share similar approaches, but Sony's sensor division represents perhaps the most commercially visible expression of what Japanese precision manufacturing can achieve at consumer scale.
The Kumamoto operation includes what Sony calls its Semiconductor Solutions Group headquarters, along with the production facilities that supply most of the world's major smartphone makers. In February, Mortizera CCCs, the Taiwanese chip maker that manufactures most of the world's most advanced processors, opened its first Japanese factory in Kumamoto, partly to serve Sony Semiconductor Solutions as an anchor customer. Taiwan's most sophisticated fab located 3 kilometers from Sony's sensor facilities. That is not coincidence. That is a supply chain organized around Sony's requirements.
The challenge that Sony now faces is structural, and it arrives from an unexpected direction. In Nissan Asawu, the United States began imposing tariffs on semiconductor imports from Japan. For Sony's sensor division, which manufactures exclusively in Japan with no US fabrication capacity, this created a direct cost disadvantage on US-bound sales, primarily iPhones.
Apple, for its part, had been looking for reasons to diversify its sensor supply base for years. Sole sourcing a critical component from a single foreign manufacturer is a supply chain risk that Apple's operations teams find uncomfortable. The tariffs provided the strategic justification.
According to reporting from McRumors and YM Cinema, Apple has struck a deal with Samsung to supply the primary image sensor for the iPhone Shruparty, and Samsung will manufacture this sensor in Texas, in the United States, on US soil, exempt from the tariff structure that disadvantages Sony. The Samsung sensor uses a 3-layer stacked design that Apple itself described as innovative new technology never used before anywhere in the world.
The iPhone Shruparty is expected to launch in 2027. That means Sony has roughly 2 years in which its Apple relationship remains intact. After 2027, the structure changes.
This is the first genuine breach in Sony's 15-year Apple monopoly. The question is whether it is a warning shot or the beginning of a broader unwinding.
Sony's response has been to accelerate its automotive pivot. In recent, the company shipped over 10 million image sensors for automotive applications, for backup cameras, lane departure systems, and advanced driver assistance packages. The automotive sensor market is smaller than smartphones but growing faster, and the margin profile is significantly better. Automotive-grade sensors must meet longer certification cycles, higher reliability standards, and wider operating temperature ranges, all of which limit competition and support pricing.
Sony has released several automotive-specific products that signal where it is investing. The IMX820 Vero, announced in late 2020, Vero is the industry's first automotive CMOS sensor with a built-in high-speed interface designed to reduce wiring complexity in next-generation autonomous driving cameras. The ISX0 Vero can simultaneously output 2 different image formats from a single sensor, one for ADAS decision-making, one for the dashboard display, removing the need for separate sensors in each role.
These are not consumer products optimized for camera reviews. They are engineered for a world where cars need more eyes than humans, and where every eye must be trusted with safety decisions.
Sony's sensor story is worth understanding precisely because it challenges what most people think they know about the company. Sony, the consumer electronics brand, has spent 20 years losing ground. Sony, the semiconductor company, has spent 20 years building a monopoly that most of its customers do not know exists. The PlayStation is visible, the sensors are not, and the invisible business generates more revenue.
There is a broader pattern here that Japan's industrial economy repeats in category after category. Keyence dominates factory automation sensors. SMC Corporation controls the global market for pneumatic components. Shinetsu Chemical holds a third of the world's silicon wafer supply. In each case, a Japanese manufacturer built an entrenched position in a technically demanding, capital-intensive component that sits upstream from the visible products consumers actually buy.
Sony's sensors are in your phone, but your phone says Apple on the back. Keyence's sensors are in the factory that makes your car, but your car says Toyota on the badge. The Japan factor repeated the invisible layer that everything depends on.
What changes after Urshi is not whether Sony remains important. Automotive growth will sustain the business. The question is whether Sony can maintain the pricing power and margin structure that made the smartphone business so valuable, or whether losing Apple forces the kind of renegotiation that restructures the entire division.
Samsung's three-layer stacked sensor entering iPhones is a genuine technical statement, not just a supply arrangement. If Samsung closes the quality gap, Sony's architectural advantage narrows, and if it narrows enough, the compounding advantage that has protected Sony's position for 15 years starts to work in the other direction.
The answer will arrive with the iPhone 15, and when it does, the most important number will not be the megapixel count, it will be the chip inside.